I can't do that. Not until we bury the body.
It seems as though 2023's obsession with Frankenstein is continuing into 2024 as we get yet another version of the Mary Shelley story. But this one feels decidedly more weird science than the more macabre tone of, say, the Kenneth Branagh version. And with Diablo Cody behind the words, I suppose that's not exactly a surprise. Juno took over the world and pretty much changed dialogue in teen cinema, so expectations were high for the film. And this is her return to the genre after a long absence. But like Jennifer's Body, Lisa Frankenstein feels more like lost potential than anything else. Lisa Frankenstein follows the title character as she obsesses over a grave, and the man buried 6 feet deep. He's brought back to life and they become a chaotic couple. The story progresses in a pretty basic way, and there's not much energy to the proceedings. There's a lull in the middle of the film where all of the quirkiness gets sucked out of it, and we're just watching a standard high school rom-com for a bit. Thankfully, things get back on track eventually, but it adds to the uneven storytelling. Lisa's motivations are all over the place and feel really disconnected from scene to scene. Kathryn Newton has been impressive in everything she's done to this point, and here is no different. Lisa is pretty much a Tim Burton character, both in her demeanor and appearance, and I was all for it. The movie is at its best when Newton embraces the strangeness. Every time the script does her dirty, Newton makes the most of it. She's absolutely wonderful. I love a good Frankenstein's monster, and Cole Sprouse is pretty great as the creature. He pulls off some pretty entertaining physical comedy that got a lot of laughs from my theater. The romance is a little iffy, but that's less due to chemistry and more the awkward plot developments. Liza Soberano was also really impressive as Lisa's stepsister Taffy. This could have easily been a more stereotypical role, yet they make her quite affable. Unfortunately, the writer feels the need to acknowledge it themselves, thus lessening the point of her character. Almost feels like Diablo Cody trying to pat herself on the back. It's rough. Then there's Carla Gugino, who feels wasted in the role of Lisa's stepmother. It's stereotypical and really doesn't utilize her talents. I had big expectations for Zelda Williams, as she always comes across as very intelligent with an in-depth knowledge of film. And there was some stuff that I enjoyed in this, with the neon color scheme and fantastic costumes. But the look never matches the tone. And there's a lot of first-timer sloppiness. Most of the actors feel like they're in different movies, and there's no real cohesiveness to the vision. Now let's get into the Diablo Cody of it all. The script is easily the worst aspect of the film, and there are constantly elements introduced that don't amount to any plot progression. I kept waiting for the earring that the creature wears to be relevant, yet despite its prominent placement, it goes unnoticed by the people who should notice it. The dialogue is stale and tired, and I question how it was ever a trademark of hers. The number of PMS jokes almost made me think that this was written by some dude in the 90s, and she doesn't seem to understand the Frankenstein story at all, making the creature more of a homicidal maniac versus a newly formed person unable to control his emotions, strengths, and impulses. I can't help but look at Lisa Frankenstein and see all of the potential. Kathryn Newton and Cole Sprouse are fantastic leads, and this could have easily been the Edward Scissorhands of the 2020s. And I'm not just talking about the set design. Unfortunately, the filmmakers seem at odds with the kind of film that they're making. There was a desperate need for surrealism to take over, but outside of the opening and drug-induced stupor, it's a dull affair. While I could see this achieving some kind of cult status a la Jennifer's Body, there's just not enough campiness for me. Which is why I give Lisa Frankenstein a 6 out of 10.
There's a young man. I talked to him.
I wish I was with you.
That's really weird, Lisa.
do these roles so well.
Thank you.
You blew me away in Freaky.
Thank you.
What is it about Lisa? What did you find in her that you could just fully connect to?
Man, that is a good question, and thank you for saying that. I don't know. I guess horror comedies, I feel like this is a comedy, gives you the opportunity to forget about yourself. Like, you have to service the story. And I felt like, okay, if I'm going to do this role, you're going to have to go 180, and it's going to happen fast. We had like 20 days to film it, so I spent a lot more time like on the weekend, like resting. So because the role really required a lot of fun energy, and like she has this like will to live so hard. So I don't know. I just wanted to shock people, I think, and I hope people like the movie. I think it was really fun.
Oh, you kicked ass.
Thank you.
Dude, I mean, this is a hard role because you don't have a lot of lines. You don't have, but you have to make it work. It's a really good performance. What was it like for you to find, balance the makeup, all of that stuff, and find the moments in the silence working with her?
I think she is very giving. Catherine gave a lot to it, which helped out a lot. Zelda created a space that just allowed us to kind of riff and play and improvise, and we added the vocality, like the sort of grunting stuff, which kind of helped carry the weight for Catherine too. But it was fun. I mean, I'm a huge fan of practical effects. I mean, I've been subscribed to Fangoria since I was a kid. I'm a huge monster movie buff. So honestly, if I didn't mind sitting in the chair and going through it. I think the second that the makeup went on, it was just kind of easy. I worked with a movement instructor for a while, which helped out a lot too. But it was fun. It was working with friends and getting to be a monster at the same time. And it was in New Orleans, which I love that city, so it was a blast.
You had a group of people who really love movies like this. Like, it's why we fell in love with cinema. So everyone coming together in that way was really special.
I'm the greatest, God created, power tripping, on the mission.
Taffy says it's a waste of time to try and fix a boy. It's better just accept a guy's flaws.
Oh, that's so cute.
Well, I feel that the people really respond to Diablo.
Yeah.
They just, her writing.
Absolutely.
How much of the script did you guys feel, did you just connect to? Like, it's amazing, doing her work.
You read it in a second. Like, it pulls you through. There's a rhythm. She has a lot of alliterations that you think aren't really there, but it's like poetry. So you don't want to mess any of it up. And it's very fun to say, I had to do this movie. I had to be a part of it. And then you just have to ask yourself, like, okay, what are you going to do? How are you going to do it? I don't know. Thank God Cole is there.
Yeah.
I couldn't have done it without him.
Oh, and the chemistry was
without
great.
his ribbiting.
Yeah.
It's croaking. It's true, though. We came up with a lot. It was all a discovery every day.
Wow. Now I'm going to get back to your monsters. You're a monster movie fan. You're Fangoria. That must be freaking cool because you're literally getting to be kind of Frankenstein.
Yeah.
That's so. Do you watch the classics like Bride of Frankenstein?
Of course.
Wow.
I think there's been so many kinds of Frankenstein movies and just forms of entertainment over the years that it's awesome to just be included into that legacy. I don't think. We've been getting a lot of questions about like how close to Frankenstein is this, and it's really not. We're taking our own creative liberties, but I think the idea that I could even be included into a list of the kind of universal monsters and whatever that looks like is I mean, if I were to tell my 10-year-old self that, he would have been overjoyed. So I think as long as I'm high-fiving that kid, I think we're good.
I feel like Mary Shelley has to have made a huge impression on you.
Definitely.
How early on did that kind of connect with you, her writing into that story?
Well, I want to say I was in grade school, probably like junior high, when I first discovered, the Frankenstein novel. And I was really captivated by the story of how it came to be, like the origin of it being almost like a contest, like who can write the best horror story. And Mary Shelley being a woman in a group of men and winning, and I would say still winning to this day. And And I just think that theme of being able to play God is so compelling and timeless, and it's the kind of thing that people can't stop being interested in. So that's why we're still seeing so many versions of the Frankenstein story today.
Your hand? I can't believe you're here. Do you like music? I have the cure. Oh, not that kind of cure. They can't make you better. I mean, they can, but like emotionally. No, don't cry. Your tears smell so bad.
You're a legend.
Oh, come on.
Hey,
Thank
people
you.
love your writing. Come on.
That's really nice.
What was it what connected you to this material? How did you react to it?
Well, it's interesting too, because obviously she's doing all of the creating in that circumstance. So when you get to read something, and especially with this being a degree of separation then from Mary, I didn't think of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. I was thinking about this script, and it reminded me so much of these movies that were so formative to young me and outsider me, and the things that I went through as a teenager. So Beetlejuice, and these kind of female characters that I really would actually have loved at that point, but also I'm so happy to give to teenagers now. So that was a very big part of it, for sure.
Well, I gotta say, I think Catherine is about as close to what Winona Ryder was to Beetlejuice and Heathers and all of that back in those days. I think Catherine's becoming that.
Oh, I agree, and that's probably the highest praise, because I love those characters. I grew up with those characters, and yeah, Winona was incredibly important to me during my formative years.
Very Madeline Kahn for me, which is one of those that like genuinely I couldn't unsee it once that feeling happened. So I'm very much with you, the Winona and Madeline comparison all day long.
When you're in doubt,
Lisa looks good.
She could probably even do pageants if she had congeniality. Your daughter is a little psycho. I opened my glorious home to an ungrateful little...
Let's talk about the makeup effect. Really beautiful, and this looks good. How did you? There's a lot of practical here. What
Yeah.
was that? Were you insistent on that?
Well, particularly if you're making something in the 80s, I think a lot of the modern tricks we use right now would feel very out of place. But especially for comedy, I think you can get away with a lot of trickery with horror because sometimes you really need it. But comedy usually requires physicality. I think you need to be there, and it's like you need to take the pie to the face. A digital pie, I don't think would quite work. So there was a lot of that. We talked a lot about it, and I think I sent you very early, even just me doing really bad Photoshop on Cole's face.
Yeah. But I wouldn't call it bad Photoshop.
Well,
but
bad in comparison to our amazing artist.
From our very first meeting, she was telling me I want to do as much of this practical as possible, and she already had strategies in place. And I was like, wow, like we don't even have like a production schedule, and Zelda's ready to go with the prosthetics.
Well, yeah, and it works too. I ask you about Mary, but what about Lisa?
What about Lisa?
How much of Lisa is in you?
A lot. And I can really relate to the fact that Lisa is like this. She's this angry teenager and she has a chip on her shoulder, but sometimes it's unwarranted. Like she's so defensive with Taffy, and Taffy is honestly just trying to be her friend. Mm-hmm. I think I was a little bit like that when I was a teenager, where I was kind of up my own ass and kind of just assuming that everybody around me was the worst and that I knew everything. And so I can relate to Lisa's kind of misguided confidence, and I can also relate to her sensitivity and her sadness and her longing for romance. I mean, there's a lot of me in there.